Welcome to Topic Time with Harrison Young. We have an awesome show today. We're going with Atlanta. I'm interviewing a woman who, she was a pediatrician and she does a lot of things. We're going to talk to her. Going to have a great interview. I believe she's from Nigeria originally. We'll cover that as well. But before we get there, I got to read these incredible underwriters, and then we will commence per usual. So we have the Damascus Olive Oil Company in Middleborough. They make the finest olive oil in the world. We have haircuts by Laurie Murray right down the street in Carver on Route 58. We have Giorgio's House of Pizza, also in Carver, right down the road on Route 58. We have the Equestrians Anonymous, a horse tax store for the addicted. Quality use tax, saddles, equipment, showing, clothing, essentials, and gifts for the horse, hound, and human. We have Outback Arms LLC in Plimpton. We have Good Old Dave's Automotive, also up the road on Route 58 in Hanson. We have Plymouth County Paving in Plimpton. We have DNS Auto Works and Collision Specialists in Abington on Route 58, and we have Kingston Auto Body in Kingston. And I want to thank you guys very much. And now, Dr. Lulu, thanks for doing my show today. You look lovely. Your backdrop is incredible. I love that painting behind you and the furniture. So, how you doing?
Doing good.
Okay. And you have quite an interesting story to tell. We talked about getting you on the show a few months ago, and now we're finally making it happen. So, what I want you to do, what I do with every guest is I try to profile them, find out what they were like as younger people and how it got them to where they're at today, because life is an epic journey. We start in one spot and we come back to it eventually at the end. So, and in between, we do a lot of other things. So what I want you to do is tell me about, you grew up in Nigeria, I guess, and you migrated to the United States. You became a doctor. So let's start with that. Tell me about your childhood, how it got you to that point, and we'll work from that. So go ahead. If I have any questions, I'll roll them in.
Well, I was born in Nigeria, and I actually went to medical school in Nigeria.
Oh,
I'm the first of 6 kids. I'm 56, so when you tell me to tell you my story, that's 56 years of stories. So I need a little bit more direction than just tell me about yourself. But I was born in Nigeria. I grew up in Nigeria. I went to medical school in Nigeria. I did not come to the United States until I came in for my residency, which was in 94.
Okay.
And I went to residency at Howard. I'm the first of 6, as I said, and we're all scattered all around the world right now, my siblings and I.
Okay.
Some of us live in the US, some live back home, some live in the UK, one of them lives in Germany, someone else lives all over the world. Somebody's in Russia with his wife, so there are many of us. But I live here now. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I moved here about a year ago. I'm a mom of 3, and I'm an empty nester. But I'm a pediatrician by training. And I did that for 30 years, and I retired 5 years ago. And now I do advocacy work with the LGBTQ plus community. I'm an author, a speaker, a coach, an agitator. And yeah, that's kind of what I do.
Okay. All right, let's break down a couple of those things. First, you said you're an author. What did you write? What have you written?
Written 9 books. You have to find my name on Amazon to look at.
Okay, that's fine.
My last one just came out in February. It's titled About Your Black Transgender Child. My next one, my 10th one, is called Allies in White Coats, and that's for physicians and healthcare providers. I've written a book about parenting, 2 books about parenting. I have a self-love journal. Usually my journal is around somewhere, but it's not here today. I have a book. I have a book about immigrants because I'm an immigrant woman. It was an instant bestseller, actually. There was 23 immigrant women. It's a coffee table book that came out in 2020, and all 9 books were written since 2019. Okay. My first one was in 2019. I have a book about titles, How to Teach Your Children About Racism. That was my best book until this one that just came out. I have one titled How to Raise Well-Rounded Children. That was my first book. And I just thought, okay, this is good. And then I have a book on teen mental health and suicide. I mean, I've written a lot of books.
Okay, that's fantastic. Now, you also said did you say you were an agitator?
Yes, I agitate people who do not want to tell the truth,
Oh,
like
okay.
the president. Yeah. Yeah. I agitate people who pretend that they don't know that vaccines are important and children will die if they don't get vaccines. So yeah, I agitate governors who make laws that don't make sense. Somebody has to do it. I might as well do it.
Okay, I understand. And just curious, like, are you somehow involved in the political spectrum? Is it all being that? Isn't that how you?
I'm going to run for office in 2 years. I'm going to run for office for school. I'm going to run for the school board here in Atlanta, Georgia in
Okay.
2 years.
Oh, why wait 2 years?
Because I want to. I have
Okay.
things I'm doing now. So I
right.
want to wait 2 years. I just moved here. I want to get into the community. I literally moved a year ago. So I'm not going to run for office. I just got here. Nobody knows me. But in 2 years, they will.
I'm just curious. Why did all your siblings move to different countries? What were they? I'm just wondering a little about that.
Yeah, I'm moving to Thailand in December. So we just like to move around. We
Just
just
like to move around.
there's a big world to see.
Yeah.
You don't have to stay in one place. So we move around because we can. We love to travel. We love to try out new foods. My kids are all grown, they're adults.
Yep.
I have no reason not to travel. So I'll be moving to Thailand in December to check it out.
Okay.
And then I'll come back so I can have dual residency so I can run for office. So I mean it's all a plan. It's all in the works.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when did you become involved in the LGBT community, and what prompted that?
When I was born in the LGBT. I was born a member of the LGBT plus community. I am pansexual myself, so yeah. I mean, I've always been pansexual, so yeah, I've always wanted to do that, but I was practicing medicine, and so when I graduated when I retired from medicine, then I thought maybe this is a time to do something different. And then I had one patient who died by suicide while I was still practicing medicine. That was the first. And the second one attempted suicide, and that was after I was active duty Air Force. Then a friend of mine also died by suicide, and today actually happens to be World Suicide Prevention Day, September 9th. So actually, September 10, excuse me. So it's a good thing that we're talking about this now. But I lost a colleague to suicide. All three of them were members of the community. And then I had patients who were just struggling with mental health, depression, suicidal ideation. And I just said, you know what? Let me lean in and find out what's going on. And I found out that, they're being rejected by their family, by the church, they're getting kicked out, they're getting bullied at school, all the things. Way before my own child told me that she's transgender, I was already beginning to look at it. I mean, we just assumed the kid was a gay boy, and then raising them as a gay boy. And then I was like, actually, no, I'm transgender. They're like, what? Okay, let's talk about this a little bit more. But as a physician, as a pediatrician for that matter, and as a mother, I already know that we're not taught that in school, but it's different when it's my fight than when it's my child's fight.
Right.
I know every parent would take a bullet for their kid, and that's exactly who I am. So once my child said the words, I was like, okay, let's look closer into this thing, because maybe we should be changing what we're doing. Maybe I should be talking to doctors about this. Maybe we need to revamp some things, because why not? Most doctors don't talk about it because they don't know about it. They're scared of it. People are usually afraid of what they don't know. But just because you think something doesn't mean it's true, right? Just because you think that Black LGBT people don't exist doesn't mean it's true. Just because you think, I don't know, they're not going to go to heaven doesn't mean it's true, because nobody has died and gone to heaven and seen that it's filled with Christians. We don't really know that. We don't know that. So I just speak my truth, and my truth works for me. And that is that I was just as wonderfully and wholly made as the next person. And my sexuality is not my whole life. That's just 1% of who I am.
Okay.
I'm a perfect, other person in other aspects. So I try to just put that forward. But if somebody wants to argue with that, then I have a lot of time. That's kind of how I do my thing.
I understand. Okay. Well, you said you were a pediatrician, right? And so have you so as a doctor so far that's you've only worked with children, correct? Or have you worked with adults too?
Now, I'm a pediatrician. That's what a pediatrician is a doctor for children age 0 to 23. Some people stop at 19 because the kids go off to college at that time.
Okay,
But some people, it's kind of a gray area. When they go off to college,
yeah,
many of them come back. So yeah, but I'm a pediatrician. Mhm.
I understand. Well, the reason I'm asking, it's kind of a blunt question, but you said you've had some of your patients take their own life, and I'm thinking if children are doing that, that's obviously terrible, and you have to deal with it. But that's something that that's got to be pretty traumatic for you. But you figured out a way to you wrote books about it to try and cope with it and help other people, right? Is that correct?
Well, my first podcast was actually called Suicide Pages. I had 3 solid years and over 200 and something episodes of Suicide Pages with Dr. Lulu. That's my very first podcast. I wanted to look into why people kill themselves. My first TEDx talk I have 3 talks, but my first one is about that because I wanted to really look into why does anybody want to do that? Even though I have had suicidal ideation when I went through my first divorce and I had to file bankruptcy because he didn't pay taxes. So I realized that a lot of catastrophic things in your life can cause you to get to the point where you're like, maybe I should. But more so when it's a child, I want to know why would a child want to do that? And so I found out that most children who have been traumatized, who have been bullied, who have been ostracized, who have been sexually assaulted, right? All the things that are heavy trauma in children can cause them to spiral when they feel betrayed by the adults who are supposed to take care of them, right?
Yeah, cool.
So when they find drugs and they get addicted or they get sexually assaulted repeatedly by their pastor, who is also their grandfather, like all the things, right? You've heard all these stories and it makes sense that somebody would feel like they have no hope. And so they want to jump. Because I have walked that walk myself, I know that at that moment, it feels like the best way. It really, truly feels like the best choice. It takes a lot to come back from that point. That's why we have suicide as a problem, right? If it was that easy, Anthony Bourdain would be here today. But he had a life that was, most people will say he had a good life, but we don't know what he was going through. Mrs. Doubtfire, Robin Williams, nobody would think that, but suicide is not something that is for the rich or the poor, or this is an equal opportunity situation that happens to the best of us, actually.
I know.
So, yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I've attempted it too. Not recently, and I wouldn't do it now. But I had a situation many years ago. I was living with my parents, and I was 19 and a half, and I thought they were going to throw me out on the street, and I figured it would be easier to be dead than homeless. And I had an experience where I attempted it. I believe I crossed over and came back, and I realized from doing it that's prevented me from ever doing it again. So
Yeah.
I figured
I love that you're sharing that story because a lot of people, not many people. I mean, obviously, my podcasts, I had almost everybody that was on the show had either been a suicide survivor or a lost survivor, which means they're family members or they're someone that they knew, their best friend, their colleague, or they were doctors or therapists. I was speaking to people who had walked the talk that I was talking about. So I've spoken to a lot of people about it, and many of them were just being honest that, at that moment, they felt so much deep psychic pain and so much despair that truly they felt that that was the only way out at that moment. And it's only someone who's kind of walked that can understand how hard it is to not do it.
Right.
Some people think you're lazy or however you want to do that. You have shoes or you have bags or you have 3 cars or you live in Malibu or whatever. But it's none of that. It's nothing like that. You look yourself in the mirror and you feel hopeless. You feel helpless. You feel like you've gotten to the end of the rope. I mean, it's a very, it's a decision that people make when they get to that point. When it comes to children, there's something called a suicide cluster or
Okay.
suicide contagion, where, you know, my friend Johnny did that, so I'm going to do it. Or, you know, it's
Oh, I know what you're
something like
talking about, like a pact.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, and I remember, when I was a teenager, it almost seemed like I mean, sometimes people would, it's bizarre, but sometimes teenagers would talk about it like it was a cool thing to do. Because it's like, hey, I can get away from, I mean, it's because it's so, anytime somebody says something that's outrageous is when you're, especially, when a preteen or an adolescent or a teenager or an adolescent, and preteen as well. It shocks people and people enjoy that. It's kind of it's a stimulus. It may be negative, but it stimulates us. And if it is, and I know a little about stuff like that. I took some psych courses in college, and I've seen a bunch of shrinks too. I mean, I went to see my parents were told that I was psycho when I was a little kid because I was acting out really, outrageous, and I ended up almost getting committed, but they couldn't afford it to send me to a mostly disturbed hospital for children, fortunately. And then we found a therapist that said that's not the answer, fortunately. And then so when I've sort of been down that road myself. I know what it's like. And I've learned to take life with a grain of salt, and I think that's what you're trying to help people do as well. And you obviously are as well too.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Yeah, and I have nothing to add to that. When you have lived experience, then it's like I'm preaching to the choir.
Right.
But there are enough people out there who are afraid of talking about it. They think that by talking about it makes somebody do it. But the truth is, if I'm feeling really, really in a bad place, and you ask me, well, how are you? Well, how are you okay? Or are you really okay? Like, by the time you think about that and ask me, are you really okay? Now, how are you really doing? If I was feeling suicidal 9 times out of 10, I may say to you, you know what? Thank you so much for asking this. I'm not doing okay, right?
Yeah.
But it's just people believing that by asking someone, do you have a plan? It doesn't make them go make a plan. No,
Right.
it makes them feel seen and feel validated almost in the fact that, I understand how hard things can be. And I understand that you're feeling like this is the only way out. But maybe let's go for a walk and let's talk about this. Then maybe let's get you some help. Maybe medication might work, maybe medication might not work. Maybe removing people from the environment is what they need. I mean, it just depends on what the inciting agent is. During the 2008, when we had the economic downfall, we had an uptick of suicides. It wasn't about people being depressed mentally or mentally. It was people who had lost their money.
Yeah, I know. The recession was unbelievable.
So I want people to understand that the reasons that people do it are myriad. It's not just one thing. So that we don't look down on people who get a very bad divorce, or if your child dies. I mean, who knows what's going to trigger somebody to feel like they've been abandoned or they feel hopeless. So I think it's just for us to have more compassion for other people, and at least you might be next. Like, truly, suicide is equal opportunity. Like, anybody might be next.
Right, it's true. I'm surprised you never were a therapist. You seem like you'd be a great one.
Well, because I'm a pediatrician. Why would I want to be a therapist? I'm already a
All right.
pediatrician.
Well, I know. I just thought that's the way. Well, listening to you talk is very comforting. I mean, I would think if I was.
I'm a speaker. I mean, that's what I do for a living. I'm a speaker. Right. I'm an author. I'm a coach. I'm a life coach. I work with people on their mindsets. I mean, but that's because I believe in coaching. I believe so. Coaching is kind of, people think it's kind of similar to therapy, while it's not. But I can understand how people think that is similar. But I'm already a physician, so I don't think I need to be a therapist. But I do know people. Some people think, "Are you a therapist?" I'm like, no. I've done a lot of work on myself too. I've been divorced twice. It's not easy. I've survived suicidal ideation. That's not easy. Right? I've had to raise 3 children by myself in a foreign country. That's not easy.
Nope.
So, and one of them is transgender. That's definitely not easy. And then I'm an immigrant. That's not easy. So, I mean, there are multiple things that I've had to do to work on myself and to get to where I am. So I appreciate that. Thank you for saying that. But And I'm also a speaker. I mean, it's what I do
Well,
for a living.
tell me about the speaker. Tell me where you do public speaking, lectures and whatnot at colleges.
Yeah. So I'm a professor at 4 medical schools. So I
Okay.
teach all the medical students, I teach residents, I help them. I teach something called intersectionality in medicine. I teach that mainly, but I also teach about affirming multiply marginalized patients. So think Black, queer, immigrant, Muslim, underinsured, uninsured, unhoused, multiply marginalized, people who are living at the edges, who feel unseen, who are usually invisible to most of us. I advocate for them. So I speak across the country, across the world. I was in London last month because my podcast was actually featured at the Black UK Pride. And so we went there to speak about that. I will be going to Grenada in November to speak to the Black Psychiatric Association to talk about the work that I do. I'll be going to Puerto Rico next year to speak again about the work that I do. I was in Canada last year. I was in Nigeria 2 years ago to speak about suicide prevention. So I was on Oprah, right? I was interviewed about the work that I do by Oprah. So I mean, I'm thankful that I've been able to be true to myself and true to my message and just keep evolving and just believe that the message was given to me to deliver to the right people, and the right people will, like will find me and it will happen.
Okay. Tell me about, now you have a podcast too, you said, right?
I've actually had 4 podcasts.
Oh.
I'm talking a lot. I used to get in trouble. I used to get in trouble a lot when I was a child for talking, and now I get paid thousands of dollars for talking. But that's the irony of life. I've had 4 podcasts. My current podcast is called Moms, the number 4 Trans Kids podcast. Actually, it's kind of on hiatus because once the administration changed, most of our guests were like, we don't want to come because we're scared. They're coming for us and all that. So I get it. But my first one was called Suicide Pages, and I had Dr. Lulu's Pride Corner. I had the Pride Corner podcast where we mainly talked about coming out stories of LGBT plus people. Then I have one called Real Talk with Dr. Lulu, which is on LinkedIn, and we just discuss matters arising. We talk about politics. We talk about all the things that I want to talk about. And so yeah, I've just had a good time just exposing the underbelly of the things, like all the things that people want to hide. Well, let's talk about them. Let's free ourselves from the falsehood.
Okay.
The falsehood. Yeah.
Well, it's awesome. Well, Dr. Lulu, guess what? We're in the final 5 minutes of the show. I hope you had fun talking to me.
It's fun. It was a lot of fun.
Great. I mean, you did a great job. You enlightened a lot of people. Well, once the show was up online, it definitely will. So here's what I want you to do, if it's okay, is give a few shouts out to people that are going to see the show, because once we share it online, it'll be seen by everyone, the whole world, our friends, my friends, your friends, family, whatever. So just condense them, and then we'll wrap it up in my snap and the way we began it.
Well, I mean, I just want to thank everyone that's watching. As someone who has a podcast, I'm always happy for people to see the podcast and have a conversation about the podcast. I mean, I'll be doing an event in 2 weeks, and we're going to discuss my first TED Talk. We're going to watch it and then have a conversation about it, about suicide, because it's Suicide Prevention Month. So I'm definitely always in favor of that. So find Harrison Young's podcast and follow it and support it and share this episode and start the conversation, because I believe there are 4 things that are going to save us. Number 1 is community. Number 2 is conversation. Number 3 is courage, and right, to talk about these things. And then number 4 is cheering each other on. So there are 4 C's. Just cheer each other on and be courageous about it, and find community, and then talk about it.
Okay. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because if I was going to say to you, if you know anyone that you think might be a good guest for my show, give them my digits, and I'll get them on as a guest, either in person or by Zoom. I prefer in person, but Zoom works, obviously. And I've gotten a lot of new guests from word of mouth now that just had my 15th anniversary of hosting Topic Time last month, and it's going very well.
Good. Congratulations. I could tell it's doing well because you have a lot of sponsors. So that's always a sign that it's doing well.
This is actually a good list, believe it or not, compared to the one the show I'm doing tomorrow. But you're right.
Yeah, if anybody would like to follow me, I mean, I don't know, for all it's worth, I'm on social media as the Momatrician. So it's THE as for the, and then think mom and pediatrician together. So Momatrician on Instagram. On LinkedIn, I'm just Dr. Lulu. And then on Facebook, I'm Dr. Lulu's Angels Haven. So just find me and we'll have a chit chat.
Okay, you got it. So I got one last favor to ask. We're gonna wrap the show up. You stick around, and my tech guy will take a pic, and I'll post it on Facebook of us. Is that okay? So,
Sure.
all right, folks. Another great Talking Time episode is wrapping up rapidly, and we got more great shows coming up. So, snapping off and wrapping out. Here we go.